Well,
You're live.
I guess we're live. Well, hi Ed. How's it been for the past 4
How you
years?
doing,
We haven't
Harry?
been here a while.
Well, like you, amazed at what's happened over the last few days, which seems like months, if not a year.
So for anybody who hasn't, I mean, if you are just now joining us, we had a show almost exactly 4 years ago called Street Fight Politics with Jimmy Zuma. There were the three of us, and we decided we wanted to track the election as it happened, and we got all the way through January 6th. In fact, talked about how
Mhm.
that was actually going to occur, and then did occur, and then at that point, I think we all just kind of felt good about life and that we'd never have to put the headphones on again. And yet here we are 4 years later with the threat of perhaps even worse than what we saw before. So Ed and I thought, let's get the show back together again. Let's get the kids on and see what happens. So, as we talk right now, it is the 30th of July. It is 7 o'clock in the evening on East Coast time, and I guess what, 5 o'clock there? What is it? 4 o'clock or
Yeah,
5 o'clock?
it's 4 o'clock here. So,
Okay. So, we have to balance this East Coast, West Coast lifestyle dynamic going on here and try to get together. But yeah. And it being the 30th of July, I got to say, it has been one hell of a week. I can't believe it has only been a week. I mean, we got the news a week and 2 days now that Biden, not surprisingly, if you were paying attention, decided that it was time to pass it on to the next generation. And so let's talk about that. What have you seen, Ed? Tell me what's new.
well, what's new is I mean, when Mike and Harry and I started talking, the conversation is should Biden drop out or not? And before we could even start the conversation, Biden dropped out. And since then, it has been a whirlwind. And from my standpoint, what I am seeing is uh, just seismic shifts in interest and who's paying attention now. So it's like, my view is that the Democrats need to stop worrying about angry old white men. We're not going to ever change their mind. You might get one or two across the U.S., but it's not worth the effort. The real money we need to do is to go for people under 40. Those are the people that haven't been engaged yet. They're starting to pay attention. And frankly, they're connecting with Kamala.
So you were actually on the white dudes for Harris last night, cast, weren't you?
Yeah, it's,
And
yeah,
in what, an hour and a half or 2 hours, y'all raised $4 million,
$4 million.
and she's got
Got
over 200. I mean, honest to God, that sounds really light compared to the 200 million that she's gotten in the past week.
Oh yeah, but I mean, when you consider
I
that,
mean, that's only 2% of the total now.
well, we'll have to do better. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was entertaining. I mean, when it first started out, it was all these obvious Gen Z guys. So, you know, I was thinking, well, where are the old guys? And then, I was thinking again, it's like, we don't need to worry about the old guys. It's like,
Yeah.
we need to get to Gen Z. So, I mean, that was actually, the top knots and ponytails and stuff like that. Definitely not my generation. But, but at the same time, that's the generation, we need to be connecting with. And
Did you see the headline today that Twitter, I'm sorry, X, or
X.
whatever the hell it is these days, actually shut the channel down?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Elon had a hissy fit when he saw that.
Oh, I think they did.
White dude, he just did it out of spite. But that's fine because the money was raised last night without Twitter. It was done strictly through the Zoom.
Yeah.
And there were so many that they maxed out and went over to YouTube, and all the donations were being made through ActBlue or the online tab that they had.
Yeah, they didn't need Twitter. Twitter wasn't even a part of
They
it.
didn't need Twitter at all.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Yeah, I mean, one thing that a couple of people and I had is that it's fun, and that we've had the black women for Kamala and the black guys for Kamala and the white women and the white guys. There's a danger, I thought, of being sort of siloing, and it's like other people have sort of been critical of me, saying, well, let us have our moment, because it's been a long 150 years since the Civil War. And so yeah, but I think as we go on, this time to link arms. and go forward. We can have the fraternities that are real, but it's like we're not here because you're a black governor or a white governor. It's like we were talking about the Maryland governor, who we both think is phenomenal.
Yep.
And when you say his name, I think up and coming politician who is a brilliant strategist. So
he handled the bridge collapse excellently. He just did. And I because of where I live here in the DC metro area, I get all of the political ads for Maryland, DC, Virginia, and some of them for West Virginia. So I get them all. And it's the orchestration that he did for the now Senate candidate, the Democratic Senate candidate that is running. I can't remember who she's replacing, but she's replacing a previous Senate candidate or senator. It was clear that he has control over his party. There was discipline that was lockstep. He had all the great, the famous players, all the big wigs from DC. They all lined up and endorsed her. She's African American. She is the current head of probably one of the poorest counties in Maryland. Constantly challenged a DC adjacent county with just all the urban nightmare that you can think of, and she's done a good job. Her name is Angela also Brooks, but I mean she's just been dealt a bad hand with where she is, and of course DC and the bleed over from there is just a problem. It's going to be, but it was clear. I digress, but it was clear that Wes Moore knew his party, knew how to get things done, and was able to instill the discipline in it.
Right. I mean, the other thing that impressed me was, he's very politically astute. I mean, it's like he
smart guy
comes out, he knows that Kamala is going to be shopping in the white wine aisle for her VP pick. So it's like, rather than.
I'm not sure if I want to repeat that, but that's pretty.
But it's like as much as I'd like to see him or Buttigieg or Whitmer, there's going to have to be some balance, to the ticket, and it's like they need a white guy. It's like someday they'll have two black candidates, two women, whatever. It's like I don't think that she's going to take that chance.
It's sad, but I agree with you. But having said all that, I'll say right now that she cannot there's not a bad choice to be made in the serious candidates that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
I'll also repeat what I said on Facebook, which is I would buy a ticket at Broadway prices. I would buy a ticket to watch Pete Buttigieg mop the floor with J.D. Vance. That would be hilarious.
That would be appointment TV. You're right.
I would do pay-per-view. I would do absolutely pay-per-view for that for sure. Or go to DC, or DC's next door, or go to Broadway. I would go to New York City to watch that happen.
Well, I mean, the thing I see with your point, they're all great. They all have strengths that, they're getting down to carping over these minor quibbling differences. It's like, is Kelly, is he exciting enough? Oh my God, he went into space, 3 times. So it's like, that's pretty good.
You look at the guys they're bringing out, though. I mean, the ones that like in serious conversation, and I don't care. Every opinion person in the media right now has their own pick, and they're all making valid arguments. So the only dog I got in this fight is I want us to win. But the ones they're talking about, whether it's Kelly or Beshear or Shapiro, or they're still talking about Gretchen Whitmer, even though she really doesn't seem to want to do it. Waltz from Minnesota, the guy from North Carolina.
Oh, I like him, man. That guy is a fighter.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's one of the first ones to unveil the weird thing. Which, by the way, I've been playing with that on Facebook with all of my right wing friends, and I say that incredibly sarcastically.
Yeah.
It drives them nuts. They just do not know how to deal with that.
Well, I mean, what's happening is that, which has been one of my criticisms of the Democrats, Kamala and company are willing to fight back and
Yeah.
punch back.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the whole point. It's like when she did her first appearance. I mean, you couldn't have scripted it or anything. The prosecutor versus the criminal.
Well, and I think you said the magic word. That was scripted, and was scripted in the best possible way. When as soon as let's go back a little bit in history to what seems like light years now, but what, a month and a half ago, when at the debate, and we all turned off our TV sets or whatever the hell we did after it was over with, and shook
Oh,
our heads and
I
said,
tried
"Oh
not
my
to comment.
God, he's got to go." And the biggest issues that I had on my page, Harry Ramsbottom page, was people yelling at me and unfriending me and blocking me and saying, "Look, guys, we got." I didn't. It's not even like I said he's too old. He's got to go. I just simply said, "Look, he's dragging us down." And everybody knows it. And if you don't know it, then you're not paying attention. But you got to be prepared. And oh, by the way, whatever happens, whether he stays or goes or whatever, we all got to get behind it. But get ready, because I'm telling you right now, he's gonna go. And so, we all in our heads, or some of us, not all, clearly not all, but a lot of us in our heads had it in that it was going to happen. The question was when.
Well, I mean that just brings up the point that everybody's taking care of elderly parents, grandparents. When they're in their declining years, we saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a valid criticism that his circle was protecting. Which is natural. I mean, that's from Wilson on. That's what's happened.
And it is natural and it is human. And I don't think that Biden is unfit for office. I don't think that Biden couldn't do a good job, although I would worry about where he's going to be in 4 years. But now that that's all by the wayside, what is clear, very clear to me, is that certainly I wasn't the only one looking ahead, and Kamala had her team, the VP
Yeah.
team, getting ready. She had that speech that she gave in Delaware at the Biden headquarters. She had that locked and loaded, ready to go. She had tested out the lines. She knew
Oh,
exactly how she was going to phrase it and put the
this
felon
was an
versus the
Olympic
prosecutor.
relay race where they handed the baton off at full speed.
Yeah, it really was. And I think they were dragging Biden along because obviously he didn't want to go, but when he made up his mind, he did it the right way. And I want to give you kudos, because if you guys recall the timing of all this, it was like 2 days after Trump gave his coronation speech at the Republican National Convention. And on that day, I think it was Friday. I think it was the Friday before Biden made his announcement. I was like, oh God, Biden should come on at 15 minutes before Trump's speech and give the announcement, and it would just totally suck the wind out of his sails. And I was thinking, this is a huge opportunity lost. And then along comes Ed. So take it away, Dr. Eddie.
Well, anyway, I was looking at it that if you want those guys to be spending all this treasure and blood, sweat, and tears attacking Biden, and then when Kamala comes on board, boom, that's all out the window. And that's exactly how that played out. I mean, they still don't have a clue what to do.
We're not talking about his getting shot at. We're not talking about his terrible acceptance speech. We're now talking about Kamala and the fact that she's raised over 200 million and increased the voter rolls.
204. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. 2%.
So we'll take it.
That's what they should call that show, the 2% white milk.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to send that in.
2% white milk show. But no, seriously, there's an old military term that I don't even think the military uses anymore, but they used to say that when somebody was surprised, when the other side was surprised that the opposing general had stolen a march on his opposition, it means he had, quickly gotten through around the other side and gotten ahead of and made the enemy come to him. Well, that's exactly what has happened. I'm writing an article for my subscription page. Yes, guys, I have a subscription page, 99 cents a month. Please check it out. But anyway, it's about the OODA loop. OODA being observe, orient, decide, and act. And and that's what we've done. We've gotten inside of their thinking cycle. And you can see it by the way they respond to being called weird. Now, here's the thing that really gets me though. Okay, so here's Trump. He's supposed to have a better, smarter, faster, more organized, more disciplined campaign team than he had 4 years ago, than he had 8 years ago. These guys are
I
supposed to be the
disagree.
creme de la creme of MAGA. And yet it's clear they were caught with their pants down. They had no idea this was happening. It's like,
Well, you got to
how could
remember
you not know?
his team now is Junior, the stupid one. You know, you know, Laura, the crazy one.
I
I
think
mean,
he means stupider. There's a comparison to be
oh
made.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Sorry about that. But I mean, the point being is this is an organization that is very top down, and they're it's vertical.
Yeah.
There's Trump, maybe something with his sons, and then not much else. I mean, so this is all on number 45.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, he got rid of anybody who didn't agree with him. He realized during his presidency that he needed people for his own damned ego to say yes. And so now that's what he's got. He's got a bunch of the same sort of creatures who either really do believe like he believes or are just in it for the ride and want to juice it for all it can
well,
get.
I mean, that's also his Achilles kneecap right
Yeah.
now. So it's like, that's the thing that's going to topple him over.
Well,
The thing that it's actually giving me, it's very heartened me that, it no longer am I looking at websites about where to move if Trump wins. So, I can put that down.
here I am halfway through my Duolingo French course because I was going to go to Montreal. And now I'm like, well, I need to visit just to try it out now.
Yeah, they've got good food there, is what I understand. So,
Oh, they do. They supposedly have the best bagels in North America, which you would not think. But going back to Trump and his team of idiots, you compare that to Lincoln's cabinet. If you read Doris Kearns Goodwin, you compare that to and some of our listeners and will know this, the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, Kennedy had the best and the brightest of America, and they had absolutely opposing viewpoints, all the way from Curtis LeMay, who just wanted to bomb him back to the literally to the Stone Age, to McNamara, LeMay's boss, and Bobby Kennedy, who said, hold on a second, cooler heads prevail here. And they were able to sort it out, and you had a leader in the middle under Kennedy who you could see the best options out there and wasn't married to any one course. Compare that to Trump, who he's the one that sets the tone. He's the one that says what they're going to think. They all then think it. How's that going to work when we have our Cuban Missile Crisis moment? How's that going to work when Iran launches a nuke at Israel?
It's even more dangerous than that, because the last person with Trump's ear makes the decision.
Is the one that, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's frightening is, I mean, if you had, we've got to bomb them back to the Stone Age, and that's the last guy talking to him, and that's what we're going to do. And that's why I'm so committed to making sure he never sees the inside of the Capitol again.
Yeah. It is true. And my wife and I didn't even want to discuss it because we were on opposite sides of this issue. The issue being, what happens if Trump wins, and we're going to stick here and, watch this happen. And again, thankfully, I don't think we're going to have that fist fight, but it was going to be ugly. And
I mean, we've been having the same conversation here.
Yeah.
With myself and Marissa, and it's like, do we, we're looking at it. Do we abandon our grandchildren and leave them here? And then I go back and look.
That's why I picked Montreal, because it's a day's drive away.
Yeah, and I looked at it. You go back and look at the historical precedents. Go back to 1932, and we're just going to violate Godwin's law right now. So we're just going to get into it. But you look at how were the Jewish community? What were they thinking? What were they seeing then? Because that's when people started leaving. Yeah. It became a flood. 37, 38, 39. And so a lot left, but then the majority didn't.
Yeah.
Why'd they stay?
It's I think it's a very human condition. I've seen not only refugee populations, but I've seen where they came from. And you go to a place like Kabul, which is absolutely, I mean, it's been nothing but a war zone since the Soviets left in, what was that, 88, 89? I
Yeah,
think it was
yeah.
88. It literally has been nothing but a war zone. There have been only months of peace, as opposed to years, and it
Well, I
was on
mean,
the
I
front
think
lines of the
for
battlefield when
them,
the Taliban
you
took
can
over.
go back thousands of years. I mean, it's like Afghanistan's the middle of the Silk Road, and it's been invaded and swept over so many times that you need a single space sheet, to get through all the invaders that have come through. I
But
mean,
you see these people, and what they'll tell you is, I mean, because I've talked to them, and I mean, I know some of them. Some of them are on my page, and they'll tell you it's my home. It's where my family is from. It's where all my history is, and I mean, I can't imagine being anywhere else. And they know, I mean, it's not they're not stupid. They know it's terrible. They know there are better places to be, but it takes a huge amount of effort to make that emotional decision across that bridge, and
well,
and some people just don't do it.
and again, from the danger standpoint, I'm in Arizona, and Arizona's been the leader in the nutty political landscape for about the last 30 years. With all
Yes,
the constitutional sheriffs and
I take great umbrage as a Florida native who no longer as a Florida expat.
okay,
I take great umbrage when people talk about Florida, man. It's like you just need to go to Arizona. You hear more about Florida because there's more people there, but they're just as stupid, if not more so, in Arizona.
oh yeah, yeah, and I just, and I mean we've got militias here that are out in the desert training. I've got it on very good authority that several of the sheriffs, if Trump wins, are going to be setting up roadblocks on all the major streets and starting doing checks, to find out,
Yeah.
if your skin's too brown, they're going to round you up and put you in we can't call it a concentration camp, holding area. So
Yeah, a detention center,
detention center. Yeah, I guess
a
that's
clearing center.
yeah.
Yeah, I told a really dear friend of mine who, she's a Mexican American in Tucson whose family, I mean, the border rolled over her. I mean, her family was there since before the Spanish, to be quite honest. Given her heritage, and I told her years ago, I said, "Look, you guys, because they constantly got picked on. Her neighborhood, they constantly got picked on by the police, by the local cops." And I said, "You need to go and get one of those passport cards that says you're a U.S. citizen, and you can get to Mexico and back by it. It's valid, but it's a little expensive, but it's not that expensive. But they last 10 years, and oh, by the way, that goes a long way to establishing that you have the right to be here. You shouldn't
But
have to be able to."
I mean, to take that a step further, if Trump had won, and I'm just going to use it in the past tense because I can't think any other way,
Yeah.
everybody's going to be carrying identity papers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, it's like, show us your papers. It's like,
I
see it.
think the real ID is a good thing. I love it when I go to the airport, and I can use that. But that's the reality, is we're all going to end up with the real ID, and I'm not afraid of it. But it, this is where we're going, guys. This is where
Well, I
America's
mean,
going.
you should, yeah, you can't be afraid of it. But at the same time, you look at what they're doing with this middle school in Kansas. They had every kid's phone wired up with this tracking program.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
I don't remember the whole story. Carry on.
And so, if the wrong word pops up in an email or a text, it doesn't go to the sender. It goes to administration. They call the kid in. Uh, it's very Orwellian. And
The technology is 100% there.
oh, yeah, we're past that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
with
It's not.
with,
It's not.
with the
It's not where there's a
AI
line drawn.
chatbots, we're way past that.
Yeah. No, it is going to be that way, and people have been beating the drum about Project 2025, and rightfully so, because what 2025 does is it clears the way for those laws, those rules, those regulations to happen. We've got
But
we
yeah,
now it's I mean, we can't argue about it anymore. We now have a very compliant Supreme Court. No, by the way, let's talk about Biden's proposal here before we get off the air. But
okay.
we've got a very compliant Supreme Court who is gonna let them do what they want to do in order to get what they want, which is, and you look at the number of staunch Bible thumping Christians on there. They're not interested in a democracy that our founding fathers were in. They want a theocracy. They want a religious republic.
Well, you look at Josh Hawley; he's saying it out loud now.
Yes, he is. Yeah, a lot of them are right now, and not even trying to hide it. So that that's going to come, and Project 2025 is the groundwork, the blueprint that is going to map the way for them to do it. If they follow what is written there,
I mean,
then
the Germans had the same thing, the
yeah,
Enabling Act back in
the Enabling
1933
Act in 33, exactly.
or
So
33. Yes.
so this is it is scary, and I don't think people are overselling it. It's very frightening.
Well, and the whole thing is like, especially when I get in it with my Trump acquaintances on my page. Well, he denied having anything to do with it. Well,
Do I know this guy? Was he your roommate at Rice?
well, there's that guy too. Yeah, so, among others. Yeah, well, I mean, his name's in it 312 times.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like, yeah, and everybody that wrote it worked for Trump in his White House. So, you tell me.
By the way, another news flash today: the director at the Heritage Foundation that was responsible, that was his project. He was the project manager or program manager. Has stepped down today. But that's just, I mean, that means nothing. I mean, all the other people are still there. That just means that they found a lamb to sacrifice, and they're moving on with their plan. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is an instruction manual. It is
yes,
not
it is.
anything else but that.
Yeah. Well, so let us talk about Biden's plan, which, by the way, I support. And there are things in there that surprise me. I would have been happy if we just said, let's expand the court to 13 or 15 people. I thought in the back of my head, it could work it out so that you add 2 justices every presidential term till we get to that point, so it's not overwhelmed. In other words, Biden wouldn't just get 6 people to appoint or whatever. But no, what he's got in there, it actually makes a heck of a lot of sense. I love the idea of term limits. Let's just be realistic. I'm not a term limit guy when it comes to the legislature, but I'm absolutely a term limit guy when it comes to these appointments, which once they're in, you can't get them out, because we've already shown that the impeachment process is as broke as it can
Well, I
possibly
mean,
be.
with the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
there's no enforcing body. There's no enforcing mechanism.
No.
They are truly above the law.
Yeah.
And you see that with Alito and Thomas.
In this past decade and a half or so, some things that have really shaken me to the core about the way that I was raised, and things that I thought were rock solid. Bill Cosby, for instance, everybody loved Bill Cosby, and he turned out to be the world's biggest creep and molester and just a terrible human being. But the same thing goes with the Supreme Court. I thought, okay, I could take a few bad decisions. I could take some things I disagreed with, but the SCOTUS is SCOTUS. They're not, things in the past. Yeah, but no, I mean, the scales have fallen from my eyes, and
Well,
I now see them as they truly are.
They become overtly political.
Yeah.
They're not even hiding it.
No.
And once it becomes a political body, why should I accept your ruling?
Yeah.
And that's the danger of it is that we're just going to ignore you.
Yeah.
And try and stop me.
Well,
what are you going
to go ahead?
Yeah, that was my point. So.
Well, so it's going to be in a fascinating, what I think we're at 98 days or 97 days or something, and it's just going to continue to roll. I want to do this show again. I'd like to get it where we can say it's going to be at X time and we can go live. I see my friend I've known since 1978, Michael Burke, was online, or at least maybe he's still online. I hope he is. But he gave me a thumbs up here in the chat section.
Good.
But but I would love to be able to do this live if we can make that happen. But for folks that are listening or might check in on this later, we're going to hang it on in the Street Fight Politics page discussion group in Facebook. So you'll see it there fairly quickly. And of course, Dr. Eddie and I will be Hello, Michael. Glad to see you're still there. He popped up in the chat again. Um,
Good.
but we're absolutely going to be hanging it on our own pages. And again, once we can figure out a live time, then you can watch it live or you can watch it canned later on. Either way, but yeah, yeah. And the other thing is, okay, so some plans ahead here, and Ed, let me know, if I'm stepping on your toes here, but we're going to bring in some guests. We're already talking to people, and we're not talking about you know my neighbor. We're talking about people who are political activists, have things to say, are writers, people who in their own right uh, understand this and can bring different perspectives to it that you guys might be interested in hearing. So there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've got invitations out to several well-sourced people. It's actually, believe it or not, I invited Michael Cohen to come on our show, and he actually answered me back. He said, "Let me think about it." So it's like that would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
To let him know we can't pay him.
Oh, that goes without saying. I said, you can come on and promote your show. So,
Yeah, I'll just say that Eugene Vinman is a local candidate here for congressional seat.
okay, yeah, we got.
He's in the next district over, and he and I share an attorney who would also be interesting to bring on. And I don't, I'm not saying that I haven't even asked him, but it would be great if I could get somebody like Eugene Vinman on and share his story and his views.
Okay, well, it's like we've got lots and lots more to talk about. We've got 13 weeks till the election, so we're going to have 13 episodes between now and then. So, rather than try to
We
cover,
better start thinking of some things to say.
yeah, well, I've got plenty to say.
Well, the beautiful thing is we don't really have to, because it's like Will Rogers said, that this stuff writes itself. Again, for everybody listening out there, we started, and Ed brought it up as we came on. We started talking about this a few weeks ago, and it was all about Willie or won't he? Was Biden going to stay or leave? And by the time that we got to our strategy session, which was literally Tuesday or Sunday night, it was, we don't know what's going to happen. Here's some topics. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, so I mean, I take it with good heart that you watch people like Rachel Maddow, and it's like she comes on, she's ripping up what they did over the last 5 days. We had to start all over 3 hours before the show went on. So, so I mean, I think that's going to give us, some flexibility because we're not tied to any one subject. It's like we can talk about the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
and try to bring people on that also have a different perspective. And, and here's the one thing I want to say as I click this beat. One of the things that's come up is that, they're saying Democrats need to stand for something. You can't be negative in your campaigning. And yes, but to that extent, we also wanted to stand for something in 2016 with Hillary. And if we would have had the same fight now back then, we wouldn't be talking about Project 2025 and moving to Montreal, or I'm going to Portugal, so just FYI.
Portugal's lovely. I went there with Michael Burke. His family took me there.
But I think the election in 2016 was lost when they were on the stage. Trump comes back, gets right behind her, looming over. Now, you do that to me, I'm turning around and I'm frog marching you back over there with, something to the words. You do that again, and I will put you down. She's a woman, not in her character. So she just tries to ignore him, hoping to go away, but it wound up making her look weak. And I don't know that was enough to do it, but it was a very street fight move that I think worked. And I think it as a visual hurt her. And the thing that I like about Kamala is that he tries that with her.
I was just about to say that.
She's going to take her high heels and kick his ass between here and Pluto.
So I'm a girl dad. I've got 3 grown women as daughters, and I can tell you right now, that's not something they would have tolerated. and it's not, and it has everything to do with a generational difference. I think a lot of us felt really solid about what Michelle Obama said about when they go low, we go high. And you know what? I thought that's brilliant. That's exactly what we need to do until they just kept getting lower and they started winning again.
Yeah. Well,
And once that
and so,
happened, it's like this is now a different age. We can't afford to go high when they go low.
well, I mean, the whole thing is in a street fight, our name, there are no rules.
Yeah.
And that's, it's like you can't be asymmetric with one side following the Marcus of Queensberry and the other side bringing, chains and tire irons and, the whole whatever else and beating the crap out of you and, winning.
But
So,
when you get ahead of their strategy, as we did in the last week and a half, and when you take them, you really set them back on their heels by not only calling them weird, but letting them show themselves to be as weird as they actually are.
well, and
I'm down with that. I'm down with that whole plan right there.
Yeah, well, so I think we can call this a successful first go. If people seeing this have comments, feedback, we would love feedback.
Yep.
We're going to try to entertain you and get information to you between now and November 5th.
And we're going to try to get interactive as well. We're still figuring out the mechanics of this platform, this StreamYard platform that we have. But as we do, we want to get interactive. We want to have a segment where we can have some call in or at least some written comments that we can share with you guys on the air. So we're getting there. Just remember, we're two old white guys. We don't know anything.
We're spoiled 2% milk. So.
Okay. Well, Ed, I'll be talking to you soon, and everybody else out there, we will see you all, or at least talk to you in a week.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Adios.
Thanks for attending.